So in this movie, let's go through the process of inspecting a surface after we've created it. So I've created a surface from points and from break lines, and we can see by looking in Surface Management that the surface is held in memory, and you can see my drawing in the background. So the first thing that we'll want to do is create a tin from our surface. As selecting the function from the model ribbon, and you can see down in the command line that it's prompting me to name a surface, or if I hit S, I can select from the surfaces that are in memory. I'll select ground. Now it asks me if I want to show, draw, redraw the surface. In this case, I just want to show because I'm going to quickly do a preview on the screen. There we get a quick look on what the surface looks like. Now there's other ways that we can visualize our surface. I can quickly create some contours. First, I'll set my contour interval. Let's set it to just 1 unit. I'll ask for contours. Again, it's asking me for which surface I want to work with. I'll pick on ground. It asks me, do I want to draw my contours or do I want to show them? S to quickly show them. There's another quick way to verify that your surface looks accurate. Another useful feature for inspecting a surface that you've got in memory is Track Z. Here I'll type Track Z in the command line. I'll hit enter. Prompts me for the surface. In this case, I'll just hit enter to accept ground. And now watch what happens in the bottom left corner as I mouse over where the surface would be. So notice how it's giving me a Z value where there is an elevation of the surface, and when I move beyond the surface it goes to undefined. Another very useful way for inspecting your surface. Now let's go back to the tin, and before I create this tin I'm going to make a fresh layer. And double click to set it to current. Now this time I'm going to draw my tin, and I'll hit enter to draw a tin on ground. I'll type D to draw the tin, and here I'm being prompted if I want to draw the tin as lines, faces, or polyface. Polyface is the most preferable option because it will draw your tin as a single entity. However, if your tin is too complex, you may find that you have to break it down to faces or to lines as well. That makes many entities in your drawing, so it makes it difficult to delete them if you haven't just made a fresh layer. I will hit enter to accept the polyface option, and enter to accept all the other defaults. Now we've created a tin, and you'll notice now when I zoom or pan that it does not vanish as the show option does. I'll turn things on the side so that we can inspect. Now, one important feature of the color coding when surfaces are created is that it gives you a good idea that your surface is free of real outlying elevations. So what you'll tend to have is sort of a nice rainbow coloring from side to side. If you have a spike or a very low point, you'll discover that almost all the surface has one color. We're looking at the wireframe version of the tin, but also I can go to the View menu, and I can look at Visual Styles, and I can ask for a realistic view of my surface. And now you'll notice how I was using the View toolbar here just to change to different preset viewpoints. If I hold down my Control keyboard key and my left mouse button, I'm able to sort of pan around in 3 dimensions. And if I want to take more control of the point that I'm rotating around, I can use this Set Center of Rotation function, and that allows me to snap to a point on my drawing, so that now when I do the same thing, you'll notice how I'm rotating around the point that I snapped. Also, there's a different function called MS Render, which I'll show you. And first I'm going to isolate my layer so that I'm showing you just the layer with the tin on it. I'll select MS Render. This opens up a different window that is sometimes a little more effective for viewing items in 3 dimensions. It gives you faster zooming and panning performance. You remember the set center of rotation function that I showed you before. This button here is the same function. When I've got that on, if I double click somewhere on my surface, it makes that the center of rotation for when, in this case, I'm just holding down my left mouse button and I'm kind of moving around that point. So this is another way of checking your surface top and bottom. Make sure that you don't see any spikes or any odd shapes that indicate that the surface is modeled inaccurately. When I'm finished inspecting and I'm pleased with the results, what I'll need to do is go back to the model menu, back to surface operations. Notice that I've got a surface in memory right now, but it's important to understand that if I close the program, that surface will be gone. So what I have to do is write a QSB, and here I'll give my QSB file a name, and I'll save it. That way, later on, if I need to reopen up this drawing and I don't want to have to recreate my surface, then I'll use read QSB, go into the location where I've stored my QSB, and I can read it back in. Thanks so much for your interest in this movie.